I'll take the money.
Mr. Krabs!
Mr. Krabs, the money-obsessed owner of the Krusty Krab, is a killer. Now, there are many different theories that have been buzzing on social media over the years, like Reddit, where fans go over episodes that hint at Mr. Krabs' dark, criminal side. But I don't think he's just a greedy, money-obsessed criminal who happens to be a boss. No, I think Mr. Krabs is a murderer. So in honor of spooky season, I thought it was the perfect time to dive deep into this theory. So sit back, relax, and grab a blanket, because you are about to see the proof that paint a seriously chilling picture of Mr. Krabs. Let's take another look at one of the episodes of SpongeBob titled Nasty Patty. When I first saw this episode, it was hilarious to me, but watching it again when I got older, let's just say something about it rubbed me the wrong way. Nasty Patty is an episode from season 3 where SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs think they killed the health inspector. One morning at the Krusty Krab, SpongeBob is doing his thing on the grill while Mr. Krabs is having a money bath as a health inspector arrives for a surprise inspection. Mr. Krabs tells SpongeBob to charm him so that he would pass the Krusty Krab. He orders one of everything on the menu, so they give him a smorgasbord and feed him all this food with not even a sip of water to wash it all down, might I add. They had to have been trying to kill him. Anyways, he also orders one plain Krabby Patty to finish the inspection. While celebrating this win, a news report reveals,
"Be on the lookout for a man who's been passing himself off as a health inspector in order to obtain free food."
Outraged at anything beginning with the word free, Mr. Krabs believes that this food critique is the fake one from the news. So him and SpongeBob concoct the Nasty Patty plan to make a disgusting Krabby Patty using volcano sauce, seahorse radish, and toenail clippings to give to the fake health inspector. SpongeBob also drops it in the toilet, and Mr. Krabs dries it with his gym socks, trying to give this man food poisoning. The sick part is that as the man is clearly choking, SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs laugh hysterically from the kitchen while watching him suffer, thinking it's because of the nasty patty. Unbeknownst to them, before the health inspector could even eat it, a fly flies into his mouth, causing him to choke and spill the patty on the floor. He then slips on the patty and hits his head on the table, knocking him out cold, but the fly flies out of his mouth. Then the unthinkable happened. A follow-up news report revealed that the imposter has been arrested. His picture is then shown, revealing him to be different from the one at the Krusty Krab. Realizing that this inspector was actually real and that their patty killed him after seeing his unconscious body, they begin to panic, and what does Mr. Krabs do?
Mr. Krabs, what are we gonna do?
What's this wee stuff?
He immediately blames SpongeBob. He gaslights SpongeBob, telling him he should have talked him out of the plan, and poor naive SpongeBob starts to blame himself, agreeing with Mr. Krabs. But Mr. Krabs immediately formulates a plan to hide the body before anyone sees it. In a very creepy scene, we see them drag the body out to the top of a hill to bury him. SpongeBob doing all the work, of course. In the process of doing so, the health inspector begins to regain consciousness, but gets hit in the head by a large rock SpongeBob dug up. This whole scene is very creepy.
I thought he might need some air.
They don't need air where he's going.
The police then show up, offering to take them back to the Krusty Krab. Then it starts to rain, causing the dirt covering the health inspector, who was buried upright, to slide off, and the body slides down the hill. Mr. Krabs has SpongeBob put him in the trunk of the police car with the shovel. He once again begins to regain consciousness, but is knocked out again when SpongeBob closes the trunk on him. On the way back to the Krusty Krab, Mr. Krabs tells SpongeBob to bring the health inspector to the back door and put him in the freezer, using shovel as code for the body. But SpongeBob thinks he's talking about the actual shovel and attempts to ask him what he wants him to do with the inspector, nearly revealing what they did. Mr. Krabs cuts him off and makes it look like he was asking about bottles of soda, which makes the cops suspicious. Back at the restaurant, SpongeBob tries to take the body out back and hide it in the freezer, but the back door is locked, leaving him to carry on his most difficult task. He marches through the front door with the body stuffed inside his hat, making him lose his balance as he struggles to walk over to the kitchen door. The officers ask Mr. Krabs about SpongeBob's strange behavior, only for him to attempt to stall them and bribe them with money. You know it's bad when Mr. Krabs is trying to give money away. The officers are then called through their walkie-talkies and receive a sudden report about two people burying a body on the hill on Shallow Grave Road. Obviously Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob with the health inspector. As they are about to leave, one of the cops wanted a soda because obviously you can't investigate a potential murder parched. Mr. Krabs quickly hands it over, but then the cop wants ice as well, and Mr. Krabs grows really nervous, prompting the officer to go inside the freezer and get the ice herself. Mr. Krabs freaks out, barricades the door, and makes excuses about not having any ice. The officer simply shoves him aside, about to get the ice herself, when Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob confess that they have committed a murder and say the body has been hidden in the freezer. When the police open the freezer, however, they discover nothing. One of the officers jokingly suggests that the health inspector became a zombie and walked out if he was killed and hidden there in the first place. Soon after, the health inspector shows up and the terrified officers savagely attack him, only stopping after they realize he's not a flesh-eating zombie. The health inspector, still disoriented, tells Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob that they have passed the inspection. They all go to have Krabby Patties to celebrate, and the inspector is hit by the door. This man can't catch a break. So SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs believed they had committed manslaughter or fish slaughter, and it makes it evident who the ringleader and mastermind is. Throughout the episode, Mr. Krabs appears unfazed about a dead body, whereas SpongeBob freaks out and even sanitizes after each touch. COVID has nothing on him. SpongeBob also felt remorseful for what he did and attempted to confess or even offer a eulogy for the man, but Mr. Krabs was cold and told him to shut up and be calm, as if he had done this before. Even at the prospect of them going to jail, SpongeBob panics, saying he's too young to go to jail, while Mr. Krabs immediately asked the cops what the charges were, like he knew the protocol. SpongeBob didn't even fully grasp the concept of death, making sure when they buried the inspector he had enough oxygen, while Mr. Krabs coldly told him where he was going. He didn't need air. This lack of empathy Mr. Krabs shows is a trait often associated with people who exhibit sociopathic tendencies. In this episode, Mr. Krabs embodies a chilling self-preservation instinct that suggests he values profit over human life. The way he reacts to the potential death of the inspector shows a troubling moral compass, one that prioritizes the business over the well-being of others. And we have seen it in probably every episode. The way he manipulates those around him, especially SpongeBob and Squidward, can be seen as a form of emotional cruelty, further highlighting his cruelty. Remember when SpongeBob said, "I remember when I first started working here and you made me pay you for each hour I worked. If that isn't the action of a psychopath, I don't know what is." No, but seriously, Mr. Krabs is a character whose love for money a lot of the time overshadows his moral compass. I mean, he sold SpongeBob to the Flying Dutchman for 62 cents. His many different actions can be linked to the meticulous planning and obsession with control that many serial killers possess. He's shown to be manipulative and self-serving, traits that align with psychopathic behavior, but this was one episode that showed the great lengths he is willing to go, and that's just one of the many examples. There is also the season 10 out of picture episode where Mr. Krabs literally tried to kill Squidward for his paintings. But let's also take a look at his own family, the mystery of Pearl's mother. One of the most compelling aspects of this conspiracy theory revolves around Pearl's mother, Mr. Krabs' baby mama, Mrs. Krabs. Throughout the show, the absence of her adds a layer of mystery to Mr. Krabs' character. While they never explicitly state what happened to her, I think that Mr. Krabs may have played a direct role in her demise. I think Mr. Krabs killed Mrs. Krabs, and it was because of money. In the episode Selling Out, Mr. Krabs sings a song about his love for money, which is called Cha-Ching. In his office, there's a verse where he says, "From every side love ever seen, the sweetest sound I've heard, I'd gladly give up everything for all the money that I've earned." He's singing this verse as he looks at his memory book with a picture of him holding baby Pearl and another picture of him helping her ride a bike. He then aggressively closes his book, killing a sweet innocent bird, and opens his chest full of money, meaning that he would do whatever it takes to make more money, even kill. Alex Bale has a video called The Evolution Theory. In certain movies, there are realistic, non-talking fish. According to the narrator, SpongeBob and his friends are all evolved fish. In another episode, there is mention of how Mr. Krabs was depressed after a huge war. Considering the evolved and primitive fish crossing territory, this was probably a war between them. There is a photo Mr. Krabs has of a huge whale, much bigger than any whale we've seen, attacking a ship. This whale is much more similar to what Pearl looked like when she was devolved by Neptune's moon. There is speculation that it's Pearl's mother, and that Mr. Krabs killed Pearl's mother during the war and adopted Pearl after noticing she had the evolved genes. Mr. Krabs grew into a state of depression, haunted by what he did. Mr. Krabs often says how much he loves Pearl and will give anything and do anything for her. And we see that in episodes like Whale of a Birthday, where he and SpongeBob plan a birthday party for Pearl. He would tell SpongeBob when they are around Pearl to spare no expenses, but would freak out when he catches his senses and see how much money he's spending. In a dream Mr. Krabs has, he is on a very similar boat to the picture, fishing for a dollar bill. He says he's catching the Moby Dollar, which is a huge reference to Moby Dick, a story about a whale being hunted, leading me to think that he killed Pearl's mother and probably feels guilty over it, which could explain his overprotective nature towards Pearl. This guilt could manifest into his inability to say no to her, as he compensates for the perceived loss of her mother that is his fault. Mr. Krabs usually says, "Oh mother of pearl," in replace of "oh god" or "holy smokes," and only says it when something terrible happens, as if he knows definitively she is no longer alive and is talking to her from beyond the grave or something. His lack of remorse is evident in episodes like Just One Bite. This episode not only showcases his selfishness, but also raises questions about his emotional capacity. A lot of the time, serial killers demonstrate a profound lack of empathy, and Mr. Krabs fits this mold. His willingness to let SpongeBob take the blame for what could be perceived as a murder shows us a disturbing self-interest. And don't forget the episode where Krabs was harvesting jelly from the jellyfish. He juiced them and basically killed them because of the popularity of the jellyfish jelly on the Krabby Patty. Also, why does Mr. Krabs have a jar of toenail clippings in his office, like a killer keeping his victims' souvenirs/memento? Throughout the series, Mr. Krabs displays violent tendencies, often resorting to physical intimidation to solve problems. In Krabby Land, he manipulates children into believing that his amusement park is a paradise, all while profiting from their naivety. This exploitation, along with his aggressive reactions to perceived threats, suggests a darker side that could align with more violent behavior. Again, he tried to kill Squidward, so if we look at the theory that Mr. Krabs may have been involved in the death of Pearl's mother, it would explain a lot about his character. The guilt he feels could manifest in his overindulgence of Pearl, creating a protective barrier against the pain of his past. His overprotectiveness could be a direct response to his guilt and remorse. By never saying no to Pearl, he may be attempting to atone for past mistakes. Then we have Ms. Puff. We have seen Mr. Krabs show interest in Ms. Puff, and when we dive deeper into her story, it begs the question, is the attraction there because she too is a killer? We already know she's a criminal with a suspicious background. Mrs. Puff has been to jail on numerous occasions and often alludes to the fact that she's had a tendency toward criminal behavior in the past. She gave SpongeBob a license when he wasn't fit to drive, which endangers everyone else on the road, and stole his new boat to not have to start a new life, move to a new town with a new name again. Remember, she also tried to kill SpongeBob in the episode Demolition Doofus. In the episode, SpongeBob is at boating school, and during the test, he continues to crash into the same two cars, inflating Mrs. Puff every time he continues to crash into an obstacle. Mrs. Puff then inflates so much, she sends the car airborne. SpongeBob then crashes the car into the lighthouse of the boating school, crippling Mrs. Puff. In the hospital, the doctor says that Mrs. Puff's inflation sac, the part that puffer fishes use to puff up, was popped in the collision and she will not be able to puff again. SpongeBob's joke about her being crippled makes Mrs. Puff furious, and she begins attacking him, grabbing his nose and threatening him, forcing him to apologize for his joke. She is tranquilized to stop her from hurting him. SpongeBob gets tranquilized too. SpongeBob then visits Mrs. Puff with a bouquet of flowers with the hundreds of other flowers he sent her, which she is apparently allergic to. After forcing her into a wheelchair, he pushes her down the hallway. Doctors are seen sprinting through the hallway with muscular men on the gurneys. SpongeBob stops the doctor and asks what is going on. He replies that the Demolition Derby members are about to battle in the hospital room, where they appear to be hitting each other with wheelchairs. The doctor says that they are brave to risk their lives for the community's entertainment. Mrs. Puff imagines them smashing into SpongeBob and killing him and begins laughing hysterically. Her laughing attracts SpongeBob's attention, and she claims she has a way for him to earn extra credit. Mrs. Puff talks to Derby manager Captain Lutefisk, asking him if she can enter SpongeBob. She shows him how much damage SpongeBob can do with a boat, though he is just using a steering wheel. Lutefisk says he is perfect for the Derby and puts a sock on his head, giving him the title La Squish. At the derby, SpongeBob is unaware of what he is supposed to do, which is to take out the opponents. Seeing him as an easy target, some competitors ram into him, but are unable to hit the car and are all hit by SpongeBob or destroyed in another way by the car. SpongeBob carelessly drives around everywhere, eliminating everyone. Mrs. Puff is enraged at how SpongeBob is beating the competition, so she then steals a monster truck. She starts to chase SpongeBob, trying to crush and kill him. SpongeBob avoids her, and all the cars are crushed before she breaks the wall and starts chasing him off-road. They then collide into the boating school after Mrs. Puff chases SpongeBob for a while. She somehow regains her puff, which SpongeBob notices, and they get injured by the school, which the tower collapses and crushes them as the episode ends. So we see similar traits in Mrs. Puff that we do in Mr. Krabs. So what if Mr. Krabs sees himself in her, the criminal side, and it's what attracts him to her? Maybe he was trying to have a Bonnie and Clyde moment. Mr. Krabs embodies the characteristics of a classic villain, and some fans even jokingly suggested he could be part of a true crime documentary. Reddit threads delve deeper into the psychology of Mr. Krabs, with users dissecting his interactions with other characters. One post stood out, noting that Mr. Krabs frequently exploits others for his gain, drawing parallels to real-life criminal behavior. This insight reflects the ongoing fascination with the darker undertones of beloved childhood characters. I mean, I wouldn't put it past the creators to have a tragic or sinister origin story to the fun-loving cartoons we think we are watching. I mean, have you seen the origin of any of the fun cartoon characters we all know and love? If you don't mind ruining your childhood, look it up, but let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Share some of your theories if you would like to. Let's keep the conversation going. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching. Until next time.